Okay, so this is my lesson on planning for big events. So in particular, this lesson is being filmed to talk about UKI US Open and planning for that event. So I'm going to go through how I plan for big events and show you a systematic way to plan for this event, but it can be used for planning for any event. So it's a pretty universal tool. So what I like to start with any kind of planning session is setting a goal or intention. So what are you planning for? Are you planning for this event to go there and do really well, like get on a podium? Are you planning to bring a young dog, and your goals just to get your dog to stay in the ring with you? So what are your goal and what is your intention that you're planning for? Because without that, you don't really know what you're planning for, and it gets really hard to prioritize your plan as well. So you really want to brainstorm this out and really think about this and be honest with yourself, because if your plan doesn't align with your goals, then you're just going to end up really frustrated when you get to the event and you don't feel prepared and you feel under prepared for the event because you just haven't planned properly for that goal. So be honest with yourself, write down your goal, write down your intention for the event. You don't have to share it with anybody, or you can share it if you want. If you have an accountability partner or an accountability group, that's probably the best place to share it. You don't have to blast it all over Facebook or social media. It can be pretty private if you want. If you want to share it, great. Sometimes sharing goals really makes us motivated, but make sure you have a goal, make sure you have intentions and a reason for actually doing all this planning. It's a lot of work, and you want to make sure that you're doing it in the right way. So once you have your goal and your intentions, what we're going to do is set up a plan. And when it specifically comes to large dog agility events, and this could be any sport, but again, we're going to talk about dog agility. I put things in 4 different buckets. And so I really center my plan around those 4 different buckets and making sure that for me, I'm balancing them because all 4 buckets are important. You might decide one of the 4 buckets isn't important for you, or it's something that you don't need to plan because it's already super routine for you in your current state. So I'm just going to explain all 4 buckets. Feel free to use all 4 buckets or omit a bucket or deprioritize or change the ranking of the buckets. I like to use all 4 of them pretty equally. So my 4 buckets are handler mental skills, handler physical skills, canine physical skills, and like their fitness level, and then canine mental skills. And this is where the bucket I also put in their training skills. Basically, what do they know and how well do they know it? Kind of falls into mental for me. So that's kind of my 4 buckets that I'm going to start lumping all of my things into. So the first step I like to take is just a complete brain dump. It's a brainstorming session within those 4 buckets. So how I like to do that is with a piece of paper, some colored markers, because I like to have some fun with this. Using colors makes it a little bit easier for me when I'm going to transfer it later into a calendar. So I'm going to show you how I do that. I'm going to flip the camera over and you're going to see how I actually do it on paper. So it starts with drawing out 4 quadrants, and you're going to see that I'm going to do that here. I have 4 quadrants on my piece of paper. That's going to show what I just talked about: the handler mental part, the handler physical, canine mental, canine physical. And if you're bringing more than 1 dog to the event, you might need to do this section here for each of your dogs. I prefer to do 1 for each dog because they're at different states in their career and their life, and they need different things. So planning out for each of them what I'm going to do to prepare them for the event is going to look different for them. They aren't the same. So what I'm going to do is then look at each section, and I'm going to spend time brainstorming in each of these quadrants. So today we're just going to go through this first one, handler mental. So this is all the mental aspects of going to a big event. And if you've never been to a big event before, you might not know how to fill this out. You can make some assumptions based on what you know, and you can put those in here. You can also interview a friend who's been, or do this alongside with a friend or a coach or someone who's gone to these events before, and make sure that you fill in some of those gaps in some of the areas that you don't really know what to expect. Like if you've never been to US Open before, you might not know that you have to walk all your courses in the morning and then you run them all. So one of the handler mental pieces might just be course memorization. Like, how are you going to, what skills do you need to have if you don't currently have them, and how to memorize all of these courses? Another could be your ring nerves. If you're someone who gets very nervous at big events and maybe tends to forget your courses, or not execute on your plans, that might be something you want to work on. Maybe you want a pre-run routine, and that's something that, because of the nature of this event, the importance of a pre-run routine gets even more amplified, because you're kind of waiting at the rings a little bit longer. You're creating spaces further away from the rings. Like, there's a lot that goes on between leaving your crate and getting into the ring, more so than at a local trial. So you might want to spend some time looking at your current pre-run routine and developing maybe a specific big event pre-run routine that you have. So this is the brainstorming time. So there is no wrong answers. You're just going to continue to write anything that you can think of that comes to mind that's related to your handler mental skills as it relates to this event and as it relates to your goals and your priorities for this event. So as you brainstorm that, you're going to then move on to the next section, and you're going to brainstorm each section until you have a completed sheet of paper. That's going to look like this. You're going to have something in each section. Again, the how many things you have in each section is really dependent on you, and you might omit a section completely. Now we're going to look at all the things we have written down, and we're going to start to cross things off and prioritize things as they relate to our goal. So one of the things that can be the most overwhelming is like the canine training part. Like, what skills do you have to train? And the younger your dog is, this list might be really, really long. So, running dog walk exits, tunnel jump discriminations, like these are just things I just brainstormed, came up with. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to look at this list and I'm going to prioritize them. And you can see I've started to do that already. So independent weave skills into a wall, that's very specific. But I rank that number one as, maybe I see that as a trend that I think is really, really important because I'm pretty sure I'm going to see it in a course. So I'm going to rank that at number one. And again, this is personal preference. Writing dog walk exits. There's a dog walk in, half the courses. So I do need to make sure I have got a good dog walk. Jump skills, jump tunnel discriminations, that might actually be higher. Maybe that's 1.5 because jumps and tunnels are in every single course. So maybe that actually becomes more important to me than running dog walks. Again, the priorities are going to be based on your goals. So no one can prioritize this for you. This is really, thinking about what you want, where you're at, and setting a priority is really important because it's going to help you when it comes to the planning part and actually mapping this all out and using your time appropriately. So it is really important that you're honest with yourself in terms of priorities, and not everything can be number one. You do have to make some decisions here, and sometimes that could be challenging. So now that I've prioritized, I might even cross things off. I might have brainstormed something, and now that I'm looking back at it, I'm like, that's really not that important to me. Canine fitness, the dog's running in heat. Is it really going to be 90 degrees in Florida in November? Probably not. So, I brainstormed that, but I don't think it's really a priority right now. And if I can fit in some heat training, great, but I don't really think I need it now that I'm taking a step back and looking at this after my brainstorm. So after I've gone through my list, prioritized, cross things out, I have my more complete list here. So what I'm going to start doing now is the next brainstorming thing, which is coming up with the tasks or the things that I need to do in order to do the things that I have on here. In order to develop a pre-run routine, there are tasks and steps I need to take. In order to work on my ring nerves, there are things that I need to do. So I'm coming up and brainstorming what are those solutions to these current open challenges that I have. So I break things down into what I have like 3 different types of things. There's either going to be a habit you're going to work on, there's going to be a one-time task, or there's going to be a reoccurring task. So like when it talks about pre-run routine, I've come up with like 3 one-time tasks. Talk to my trainer and my friends about their pre-run routines. Maybe I don't have one, but they do. And I want to find out what their routines are and maybe take from some of different people and develop my own. I'm going to outline a routine that I wanted to use and see how it works. And then I'm going to try it out at a local trial and see how it works for me. And then, reiterate this over and over again until I have what it feels like a really solid pre-run routine that I can take with me to this big event. Ring nerves. There's not like one single thing I can do that says, poof, I'm going to stop being nervous. So when I think about what ring nerves really means, to me, that's, calming your nervous system. That's finding a way to settle your breathing, get your heart rate down. So for me, the first thing that comes to mind is meditation. Well, you can't just show up to a trial and meditate and it magically works. Meditation is one of those things that you get good at over time. So I'm going to write down that I'm going to do some meditation. And then for me, that's going to be a habit. I'm going to commit to meditating every day between now and the event. And at the end of that, the goal is going to be to be able to have like a mantra or a breathing routine or something, or maybe it is a meditation itself that I found online. That's 1 or 2 minutes that I can use. And maybe I incorporate that into my pre-run routine, and that all becomes one thing. So those are single tasks, habits, and then there's tasks that repeat. Remembering the course. I'm going to commit to working on remembering the course, working on coursework, memorizing courses, doing memory games once a week for every week between now and the event. Excuse me. There's other kinds of repeat tasks like the dog training part. I'm going to commit to training something on this list 2 to 3 times per week for each month. Or your canine fitness. I'm going to commit to doing my canine fitness 2 to 3 times a week from now until the event. When you get to the handler things, maybe these again are tasks, repeat tasks, habits, or single tasks. So being able to run fast, so maybe I need to come up with a sprinting program. And so with that means a daily exercise. So I'm going to commit to exercising daily. And so that would be considered a habit. Getting something I have written down here, again, random brainstorm, getting something fixed, going to a doctor, getting some medical attention that you've been putting off. Maybe this event is your motivation for getting that fixed. So that would be maybe a one-time task of call the doctor. Losing some weight, eating right, stopping to eat sugar, those may be habits. So not eating sugar between now and the event. So that might be considered a habit that you want to start. So once you have your list here, we need to start taking this and now creating our plan of action. So what I like to do for that is I like to take a calendar. I like to use a website called PDF Calendar. And what I do with that is I make like a 12-week calendar here. I do that for all of the weeks between now and my events. And so this is October and November. And then I have July, August, and September here. So I look at my 2 months or 1 month or whatever you have here, and I'm going to start making an actual plan. So this is my brainstorm. These are my thought process. This is going to be my actual plan. So the first thing I like to do here is I'm going to map out all of my big things that I have going on between now and the event. So like this weekend, you have a seminar. Things that are important to you, things that take up your time, things that might break up your routine or make it challenging for you to do your habits. So, like in here, you might put a work trip. Because these, again, things that are breaking up your routine that affect your planning. Here, you might put a trial. And these are things that you have going on that you need to mark out and be aware of and how they're going to impact your schedule. And these are things that are planned. Obviously, things come up. Maybe this work trip you have scheduled here, you might also, once you get to this trip, you might find out you have to go back and that gets dropped in here. And you don't know that now, but by going through this exercise, you're at least setting yourself up for a little bit better success. And when those things do come up, you will be better prepared for how to handle them because you have gone through this exercise and you'll be more committed to sticking to your plan and building your habits when those things do come up. So I have my big things written out. I'm going to now go to my brainstorm sheet here, and I'm going to start writing down the things that are tasks, repeat tasks, and putting them on a calendar and committing to them. So we talked about repeat tasks of training your dog 2 to 3 times a week in agility. So I might have agility class on Wednesday night. So that's one of my 2 to 3 times. So I'm going to put class, whatever, right? That's my repeat. So then 2 to 3 other times a week. So there's a seminar this week. So maybe I'm not going to do any other training that week because I want to make sure my dog can rest. The seminar is really important to me. So class and that seminar are going to be my 3 times per week. So the other weeks I'm committing to doing, Mondays and Fridays. When it gets to my work trip here, this is where, again, planning now is really important. I can see, I can't go to class. I can't do my regular training. So I might have to do some flexibility. I might have to train on Sunday and Monday and Friday that week. And this is important. Again, you want to set yourself up for success. So the more you can see these roadblocks and adjust for them now, the easier it is to stay on track and stay committed to your plan and actually execute on your plan and be prepared for this event because you've really thought this through. So that's the dog training piece. And then, we got to fill in the fitness thing that we can do. So canine fitness. Maybe you can fit them in on days that you have, classes or doing your agility work, depending on the agility work that you're doing. I can't tell you exactly how to schedule without knowing your specific case. You might have a coach that can help you do this. You might seek out a mentor or somebody else. You can work with me privately, and we can talk about this privately as well, because everyone's situation is a little bit different on the time that you have. So come up with a schedule that you can stick to. The biggest thing is come up with something that works for you. Don't just copy somebody else's. You got to stick with something that you can actually commit to seeing through. You're going to write this all out and you're actually going to have to execute on it. So making sure it's something that you can execute on. So we talked about, these are what I call the repeat tasks that I mentioned before. So things that you're doing multiple times. They're not daily, but they come up on a pretty regular basis. Maybe your course memorization. Every Friday you do course review where you practice memorizing courses. And again, you have a seminar that day. So maybe you do it on Friday or on Thursday this week, course review. So again, repeat tasks. Then you have your one-time tasks. So one of the one-time tasks we came up with is talking to my friend and my trainer about their pre-run routine. So maybe I'm going to do that on Wednesday before class. Talk about routine. So I'm committing to doing that on that Wednesday and then outline my routine. Well, I know my Tuesday nights are pretty free, so I'm going to sit down and commit to giving myself an hour to outline a routine for myself. So these are one-time tasks. These are things that once I get them done, I'm going to put big old check marks by them. These are things you want to put on like a task list or a to-do list, not things that you're going to really put on your calendar in this way, like repeat things, because these are things you're going to want to check off, especially if you really like the crossing lines off. You might take all of these one-time tasks and put them on one big to-do list, so you can cross them off and be really excited when you get each of them done. The calendar here I like to use a lot for repeat things. Again, you can put your one-time things on here as well. It just depends on your format. And again, this is a paper copy. You can also do a digital copy, and I'm going to try to do that, show that to you as well here, if technology will cooperate. So once I have this calendar all filled out, those are my tasks. And then I also have to think about my habits. So we've talked about a meditation habit. So that kind of stuff I'm going to put into a habit tracker, and you can either do that on paper. I do mine online, and you can do things with habit tracking, and you can really have a lot of fun with habit tracking. It's kind of a trendy thing right now. So there's a lot of like notebooks and apps and things to do with habit tracking. So you might want to look into fun ways that will make you have an enjoyable time with your habit tracking and developing new habits. The important thing to remember with habits are start small and build them up gradually, and don't try to do too many all at once. James Clear has a great book called Atomic Habits. If you're new to building habits, I highly recommend listening or reading that book. It's fantastic, or getting the Cliff Notes online about it, because it's pretty great. But with habits, you want to be careful not to just go all in on all the habits all at once. You might need to, put your toes in the water here. So when it comes to like a meditation habit, one thing you might want to consider is, doing it slowly. Maybe you commit to only doing meditation for 2 minutes a day, or 2 minutes every other day for the first week. And then it's 3 minutes a day. And then it's 4 minutes a day. And you build it up to your goal of doing 10 minutes of meditation every single day up until the event. So it's really important to take your habits and break them into small chunks. With the running habit, if you want to start running daily, start with just a habit of putting on your running clothes. You don't actually have to go for a run, just put on your clothes. If you break the habit down and you make it really easy to achieve, you're going to feel really good about yourself when you get it done, because it's something you can do. It also then needs to keep pushing you. So every single week you need to, or day even, push yourself a little bit more. So it starts with just putting your running clothes on. Then it starts with walking out the door. Then it starts with going for a walk before you even start going for a run, and finding yourself building up these little successes and little wins is how you're going to actually develop these habits. So when you start looking at building up your habit tracker, maybe you break it down. Instead of just saying, I want all of the habits that I put down on my sheet, I want all 5 of them perfect, the finished version every day from now until the event. That might be overwhelming for you if this is new for you. So you might want to find a way to break that down. If you need individual help with that, I am here to help with that and help you kind of break that down. And again, there are lots of habit tracking resources you can use. So those are how you plan out your tasks, your repeat tasks, and your habits. So getting that all on paper. And then now, once you have it all on paper, committing to when you're going to review this on a regular basis. I like to review this all every Saturday night. I sit down with my calendar and my habit tracker, and am I on track? Did I meet all my habits? What adjustments do I need to make? Did I take on too many habits? Do I need to break it down because I wasn't successful? I had too many misses. So what can I do to make myself successful? Did something come up that I wasn't able to get something done during the week? And do I need to reschedule it into the next week? Especially with the dog training stuff. I mean, we all know how dog training goes. It's not linear. So you might think and have a plan to work on weaves for the first week, and it just goes so well. And you're like, oh man, I don't need a whole week to work on weaves. I can just move on to the next thing. And so you do. And so that's the time on Sundays or Saturdays, you review and reflect on that. Be like, okay, change of plan. I don't need to work on weaves as much as I thought. I'm going to move on to my next priority. Or maybe you started working on weaves and you're like, oh man, I thought I could get this done in just a week. But we are way not in the place that I thought we'd be. I need a little bit more work. I need to break this down more. It's just not going the way I want. So you might shift your priorities around and your training plan around and put in some more weave training sessions. This is the reflection part that I do once a week. I also do a mini reflection every morning, make sure I know what my schedule looks like, make sure I know what tasks I'm supposed to get done for the day, make sure that nothing is in my way of getting them done, and make any adjustments I can in the morning. So little mini reflections in the morning as well are really important, or at the end of the day, whatever works best for you. And that's kind of how we go through the plan. So then once you have your plan, this is all written out, this is all great. The planning part for me is the most fun part. It's really easy. I can make plans all day long. Executing, that's where the resistance comes for most of us. We can make plans, and we might even be able to execute for a week or two, but executing consistently from day one until day, the event can be the hardest part. Things come up, life is hard, we get interruptions, we lose motivation, our momentum falls to the wayside. And so executing your plan is probably the most challenging part. And so that's where the group that we're going to have here is going to be really important. We are going to start accountability groups. I have my Friday check-ins. That's big group wide. But if you want to be in a very specific accountability group about a certain topic and a certain time zone and meet face-to-face with people, I'm setting up accountability groups, and there'll be a link for doing that. The accountability groups are for you to come and talk one-on-one, talk about your challenges, talk about your wins, brag about what you've gotten done. Because if you can show up and brag about yourself, that might motivate other people. Share how you're overcoming some challenges that you're having, and that again will inspire other people. Or if you need help overcoming challenges, that's what the accountability group is for. And those will probably meet weekly. And then within those groups, you can come up with maybe a one-on-one buddy. If you need more daily support, we can work on that too. If you need something even more than that, I'm offering myself as a coach for this. You have to DM me for that to get all the details, because it's going to be situational based on if I think I can help you or not. Time zone is going to be part of that. and figure out what kind of support you want. But I am available as a coach as well, accountability partner, planning coach, whatever you need to help get you prepared for the event. That would be on an individual basis. So you have to DM me for that. So that's all the paper part. I'm going to show you some of the digital part and how I digitize and execute on some of this. So we talked about the calendar itself, but once that, for me personally, I like to do something called time blocking. So I wrote this all on the calendar that you saw, but how do I actually get it done? And for me, I like to commit to certain time windows. So what that looks like, yes, you can kind of see my screen here. Sorry. This is a time block for me. So I don't time block anything before work. I time block my lunch breaks. So I can be productive during my lunch breaks. And then I time block my evenings. So 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7, whatever. And I even put in my bedtimes because that for me is a habit that is really important. That's up on my top things for habits on my habit tracker. Do I get my 7 to 8 hours of sleep? That is number one. So I time block in my bed time. Like this is when I go to bed. Other than that, so now if I look back at what I wrote down on my calendar, so Wednesdays, from 4 to 5, I'm going to be doing canine fitness. I have from 3 to 4, I'm doing my personal workout. I'm time blocking in canine fitness focus for that hour. Then maybe it's dinner. And then maybe it's some mental work. So maybe I'm going to read book on how to, improve my mental game. Whether that's a book you read, some podcasts you listen to, something I do for that hour. I'm going to block that out. And this is called time blocking. This is really, I find, a very helpful tool to make sure I get everything done that I have written down on my calendar, that's on my to-do list. That I make sure it gets done in that day. And how I do that is by time blocking. And this is what I review every single day in the morning or in the evening. And absolutely on the weekends, I time block for the entire week. So that's one digital tool. And this is all in an app called Notion. I'm showing you the website version. This is also on like a phone app as well. I have my training schedules in here. And this is another way I like to show and do some of my training. So I put in, like, you can see rest day. This is a coursework day. You can put your notes in here. You can really organize yourself a lot. This is my fitness plan for the day. So exercise 1, exercise 2, these are the exercises I'm going to get done in my fitness. I can keep records. This is like a training day. So my plan session, and then my notes and my videos for my session. So this becomes kind of like a journal as well. So this is an app called Notion. I find it really beneficial. I really like it a lot. Back to habit tracking. It actually has a habit tracker in here as well. So I have my monthly habits of running, meditation, sleep, journaling, and I can check off every day which things I've gotten done for the day. This is a little fancy version of it. You can look at it in different views. If you want a really basic habit tracker, I just use an Excel spreadsheet. This is like what I started with the very first time I habit tracked. I just put the month, which habits, and I would fill this in. So sleep, meditation, whatever. And then I would just put in, if I did it for the day, I get myself a green box. If I miss, I get myself a red box. And the goal is not to have 2 red boxes in a row. So sorry, you didn't get to see all of that. So that's the Google sheet of habit tracking. And again, this is an app called Notion. You can put a calendar in for your events in here that have your trials all the way through the your event and all of that. So there's lots of different ways you can digitize all of this, or you can just use paper copies and notebooks. There's nothing wrong with that. I love those as well, journals and notebooks. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you can sign up for an accountability group. It'd be really great to have, the more people, the better. If we get too many people, we're going to break it into small groups, because I want you guys to have enough time to meet with each other in a half hour to an hour without it being overwhelming, and everyone getting time to share. And sometimes if the group gets too big, people don't feel comfortable sharing. Also, if the groups are too small, it's just weird because it just feels like you're just doing like one-on-one. So we're going to try to find that balance with the size of the group. And so sign up for an accountability group, reach out to me if you need individual coaching or individual accountability. And hopefully this video helps and get you planned. Again, set a goal, brainstorm, create the plan, and then execute. So with that, you will be successful when you go to your big event. You won't show up to your event. If you follow through on all of this, you won't show up feeling like super unprepared, you didn't do things right. And if you do, the reason is because you didn't set the goal and your plan, they weren't in proper alignment, or, life just gets in the way and maybe you just didn't get to fully execute on your plan, and that's okay too. The more you go through this, and don't get discouraged if it doesn't happen or doesn't work perfectly. It is a process. You just got to keep going through it. And the more you practice it, the easier it gets. And you might not, this whole plan might not work for you, but maybe just bits and pieces of it are. Maybe you already have a great method that you use. That's fantastic. And you just take little bits and, tips from this. You can also, if you don't even want to use any of this planning stuff, but you just want the accountability, great. We can do that too. Or just plan and don't have the accountability. Maybe you don't need it, or you have someone else to do that. Take from this what you can, or what you need, and just hopefully find a little bit of benefit from it, and it will help you prepare for events a little bit better. So that's all I got for today on prepping and planning and creating your plan for big events. I hope you find this helpful.